Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 385 of the All Dolphins podcast for this Saturday, October 19th, 2024, on a busy day for the Miami Dolphins, who made several moves, including their roster and including their injury report ahead of the Week 7 matchup against the Indianapolis Colts at Lucas Oil Stadium on Saturday. The moves made a little bit earlier on Saturday. Had to watch the end of the University of Miami Louisville game before putting together this particular episode of the All Dolphins podcast, and got another eyeful from quarterback Cam Ward, who, yes, absolutely would look fabulous in a Dolphins uniform, but that would require the Dolphins having a very, very, very high first-round pick, because that dude's going to go early, because that dude is good. He is so good. Anyway, we're here to talk about the Miami Dolphins and their roster moves for Saturday, along with the obligatory practice squad elevations, but there are also some movement on the 53-man roster on this particular day. The move on the 53-man roster included long snapper Blake Ferguson was placed on the reserve non-football illness list. Taking his place on the 53-man roster was quarterback Tim Boyle. To replace Ferguson in the lineup for at least the next 4 weeks, and we'll get to Ferguson's absence a little bit later, the Dolphins signed veteran Matt Overton to the practice squad, a long snapper, and then elevated him for the game against the Colts, along with defensive back Nick Needham getting a second consecutive elevation after he also was elevated for the game against the New England Patriots on October 6th, which was the last time the Dolphins played before their bye. As far as the injury report is concerned, the Dolphins downgraded cornerback Cam Smith to out with his hamstring injury that's kept him on injured reserve throughout the 2024 season so far. As we've indicated before, this was the last week Cam Smith could practice before the Dolphins had to make a call on his roster status. That needs to be done before next Wednesday, and the options are, as they've always been, you move him to the 53-man roster, in which case you're going to have to create an opening for him, keep him on IR for the rest of the season, or waive him. I don't see any scenario where the Dolphins would waive him, considering he was the team's top pick in 2023. Regardless of what happens, he will count as one of the 8 designations off IR the Dolphins are allowed during the regular season, as will River Craycraft, because Craycraft, if you recall, based on the new rule, the Dolphins put him on IR on August 27th, which is the day all NFL teams had to get down to the 27-man roster. The 53-man roster. So once they used that new loophole, remember in the past, to be able to return during the regular season, player had to be on the initial 53. The NFL made an exception this year for 2 spots, 2 players that could be designated at cut down date of the 53, but then they were designated to return and automatically count against the 8 move limit. Craycraft was one of them. Cam Smith was one of them. We highly anticipate Tua Tagovailoa being another one. Probably as early as next week, you may have seen a report from The Athletic on Saturday morning suggesting that there's, breaking news through sources that Tua is going to come back to practice on Wednesday. This is not anything that's highly unexpected. It's just never been officially announced, nor will it be until probably maybe Monday, when Mike McDaniel does his weekly day after the game press conference. He will reveal that, or if not, we'll see it on Wednesday when it happens. But again, the expectation has been all along that Tua would be back at practice on Wednesday, which is the first day he's eligible to, after sitting out the required 4 games on injured reserve. Even though it's not injured reserve, the non-football illness list with Blake Ferguson also carries the 4-game requirement for him to sit out, which means he's going to be out for at least the next 4 games, which are against the Colts on Sunday, the Arizona Cardinals, followed by the Buffalo Bills, and then the Monday night game against the LA Rams. First game for which Ferguson would be eligible would be the November 17th game at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. So the next question is, okay, what's going on with Blake Ferguson? That's a great question. Seemed to be no issues, other than the errant snap in the game against the Patriots back on October 6th, but that was 2 weeks ago, until he showed up on the injury report on Friday, out of the blue, listed under the injury as personal and then the participation being limited. Now today he's on the reserve non-football illness list. We don't know the nature of what's going on with him. And at some point, I'm sure it's going to come on and we'll find out, but nothing is known as of yet. And all we know is that he'll be out for at least 4 weeks. Now, the move to sign Overton to the practice squad and then elevate him and sign Boyle to the active roster off the practice squad is a little weird, because Tim Boyle has been elevated once so far this season, which means the Dolphins have 2 more elevations with him. They also have Tyler Huntley also on the 53-man roster. They have Skylar Thompson, who's still dealing with a rib injury. He's questionable for the game against the Colts on Sunday. But if the Dolphins wanted to use Boyle as the second quarterback against the Colts because Thompson's not quite ready to be there yet, Dolphins just could have elevated Boyle and then sign Overton to the active roster. The Dolphins are going to need a second long snapper, another long snapper, whether it's Overton or somebody else, for the next 4 weeks while Ferguson is on the non-football list. So why wasn't Overton on the 53 and then Boyle just elevated? I don't know. That one's a little bit strange. I'm guessing maybe Mike McDaniel will address it at some point, either after the game on Sunday, even though they're not necessarily frontline players. So it may be something that gets addressed Monday or later in the week. But it is a little bit peculiar, to say the least. As far as Nick Needham and what his elevation tells us, well, elevation tells us that don't count on Javon Holland playing, which this is a further stamp beyond the fact that he was listed as doubtful on the final injury report. He's dealing with a hand injury sustained against the Patriots on October 6th. Jordan Poyer will be back after missing the last couple of games with a shin injury, and then you're looking at a Jordan Poyer and Marcus May being logically your starters. Nick Needham just provides more depth at the position along with Elijah Campbell. Now, the Cam Smith news. Again, the Dolphins did not have to activate him. They never have to activate him. They did make the commitment to use one of their 8 returns from IR to him when they put him on IR on August 27th. If he does come onto the 53-man roster, that would give the Dolphins now 7 cornerbacks on the roster, which is a very high number. And the other 6, in case you're wondering, we're talking Jalen Ramsey, Kendall Fuller, Kader Kohu, Storm Duck, Saran Neal, a special teams ace, and Ethan Bonner. Again, very rare for teams to carry 7 cornerbacks. My best guess, if it's an apples-to-apples switch, would be Ethan Bonner, who would be the guy who would wind up being waived, with the idea of re-signing him to the practice squad if he clears waivers. Bonner has not been a factor very much this season. He's been active only once, as a matter of fact. So that would not surprise me if I wound up being the move. I would be surprised if Cam Smith wound up being shelved an entire season again, because at some point the Dolphins need to see what they have in the guy. He was their top pick in the 2023 NFL draft out of South Carolina. Didn't do anything last year, played 20 defensive snaps the entire season, fell into Vic Fangio's doghouse pretty early, or apparently, and then, again, wound up being a total non-factor. The Dolphins need to see if the dude can play. You can't just wash away and dismiss a second-round pick like that and your top pick that easily. So, again, it would be very surprising. He was listed as a full participant all of this week, all of the week against New England as well, and the Dolphins still have yet to choose to activate him. I'm expecting that will happen next week. Beyond those moves, nothing happened with there were no other injury updates in terms of downgrading for the Dolphins, which means, as a reminder, Odell Beckham Jr. is questionable. Tackle Austin Jackson is questionable. In the event that they can't play, then the Dolphins now would have to go with 4 wide receivers: Hill, Waddle, Braxton Berrios, and Malik Washington. Kind of get the feeling that perhaps D. Eskridge would have been the elevation choice instead of Nick Needham, had that been the case, if Beckham definitely was out. Although that's not necessarily a slam dunk. The Dolphins, I guess, can make do with 4 wide receivers, particularly if they're going to run the ball a lot, which was what one expect them to do, considering the success they had against the Patriots with 193 yards and the fact the Colts are 31st in the NFL in run defense. So that's that factor. With Austin Jackson, if he can't go, should be Kendall Lamb at right tackle. No, I don't see Patrick Paul starting at right tackle in the least. He played left tackle strictly at the University of Houston. Did get the start when Teron Armstead was out for the game against Tennessee in the Monday night game, and it wasn't necessarily a stellar outing for Patrick Paul. It wasn't horrible, but when asked about it, Butch Barry said basically was asked about what stood out. Well, he talked about the experience that Patrick Paul gained, so not necessarily a glowing review there. The Colts had a couple of news items as well as we're going to pass along here in our effort to be always very thorough. One of which is an injury update. They downgraded linebacker EJ Speed to doubtful from questionable. And before you dismiss that as being insignificant, understand that EJ Speed leads the entire NFL in initial tackles so far this season with 44. The Colts also made 2 elevations from the practice squad linebacker Liam Anderson and then cornerback Kelvin Joseph. If the name Kelvin Joseph rings a bell, that's because it's the player the Dolphins acquired when they traded 2020 first-round pick Noah Igbenogany to the Dallas Cowboys in August of 2023. Joseph didn't make the 53-man roster, and he's been in and out, bouncing around different teams since then. So now he'll get a chance to play against his former team. So again, the big news of the day for the Dolphins, we're talking about Blake Ferguson, who has not missed a game since joining the Dolphins as a 6th-round pick out of LSU in 2020. He's going to be on the shelf for at least the next 4 weeks. Veteran Matt Overton, and a bit on Matt Overton. He's been in the NFL. I had this right in front of me. He has been in the NFL for a total of 10 seasons, 139 games. Last played in the NFL for the Dallas Cowboys in 2022. Spent 5 seasons with the Colts from 2012 through 2016. So as a guy who's been around, has done it. So he'll be the long snapper, at least for the game against the Colts on Sunday. And then maybe for the next 3 weeks after that, who knows, maybe the Dolphins make another move. And then the Dolphins signed Tim Boyle from the practice squad to the active roster, giving them 3 quarterbacks on the 53 right now with Tyler Huntley and Skylar Thompson. That number to be getting to 4 probably sooner rather than later with the expected return of Tua Tagovailoa. But that's not going to come until after the Dolphins face the Colts on Sunday afternoon. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. on Fox. Game shown in very, very few areas of the country, parts of South Florida and then the Indy area, a little bit of northern Florida as well. But it's certainly not a marquee matchup on this particular day. Maybe the Dolphins will get back to being TV darlings. That will come with some more success than they've shown so far this season through 5 games. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Programming note, as always, I will be here right after the game for the All Dolphins podcast live post-game show with ESPN radio talk show host Ken LaVicka. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Enjoy the game on Sunday, and we will catch you here right after the game.